Derrick Jaxn's wife finally speaks out. So 𝙇𝙄𝙆𝙈 Jaxn came on the Dear Future Wifey podcast, and she talked about her marriage with the infamous Derrick Jaxn, and she talked about her life and gave a lot of context behind what transpired, what we all saw from a very narrow lens publicly, some of the things that she dealt with him and in her personal life privately. So we're going to talk about some of the big things that we took away from it. But before we do us a quick favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel. And we put together a couple of clips that we thought were significant. And so we want you all to check them out.
Was on summer from college, actually. And I was going out to a party. And so we were all drinking, having a good time. I was downstairs, and one of the people there decided that they, seen me and they wanted what they wanted. And so I was grabbed from behind. I was pushed down, and then I was dealing with some severe heartbreak, like the things that I seen Derrick doing with other women at the time. And I was really attached to him. And then you have to think I was coming off of that trauma. Yep. And so I never dealt with, that I never talked to anybody about. And so there was a lot of turmoil that I was having. I wasn't thinking about, oh, Fabian is this guy that I'm trying to be with. I'm thinking, how am I going to get this guy back? But then at the same time, I don't want him to lose him. Yep. So there is a life of glam and riches and fame. Like when you have some status, it comes with stuff. Mm-hmm. It comes with access to stuff. It comes with like this extra treatment. It comes with money. I had not experienced any type of level of that. And I'm like, I've been all them Disney movies are paying off. I'm living the life of the rich and famous. I became a shell of myself. I didn't know who I was. I actually have a couple posts on my page where I have a post that says, I knew her body better than I knew my own. I spent a lot of time, like I went in such a deep hole where I was like studying these women. I would go to their profiles and I would study their pages and like what they wear. I knew when they had met up. So I watched their videos of them having sex. So I would try to imitate that and recreate that in our relationships so that he could choose me and want me. When you have experienced so many fragmentations in your life, the world is telling you you can only get this by opening your legs and doing it this way. You're experiencing heartbreak, in your personal experience. All of this contribute to that. And then you're not dealing with it and being healed from that. So you're carrying it into the next relationship and not realizing that you're carrying and acting on toxicity. You have toxic behavior that you have to heal and be transformed from. And so when I learned that term, I was like, oh my gosh, I was a broken conscious woman. And I absolutely was. There's no way that any woman that is whole in mind is going to try to take on the mindset of another woman and try to imitate them in bed and all these things, All
right. So now that you all have seen that, we can kind of discuss it a little bit more. So I thought this definitely helped paint the picture a lot better than what the shade room, social media, and all of those different clips that we would see, whether it was the video that Derrick Jaxn put out where 𝙇𝙄𝙆 was looking really uncomfortable.
With the hat.
I mean, she said that the context of that was it was a really tough time. They had all that stuff happening, and they had just gotten back from a funeral, so someone died. She just found out that she was pregnant with the next kid, so it was a lot going on. So that's why her appearance looked like it did, and wasn't even necessarily how she felt about him. Once you now having that context of him pretty much being a serial cheater and all of those different things, I want to kick it off first talking about the importance that healing plays into both relationships. We're going to come from a Christian angle. One, I just want to first shout out 𝙇𝙄𝙆. She is a sister in Christ now to us, and it's amazing because all the stuff she went through, horrible, unfortunate, the trauma that she's experienced, having to deal with low self-esteem in that relationship, all that. But the bright side of all of it is that she found Jesus. So we're very happy about that. And that is the silver lining of all of this. But I personally view 𝙇𝙄𝙆 as a cautionary tale of the importance of healing. I think a lot of times it's easy for us to neglect, and a lot of it is due to ignorance. We're all probably being made more aware of therapy and things like that, and how important it is for us to prioritize our mental health, our overall well-being, and self-awareness. That's something you and I both talk about a lot in our personal lives, and we try to bring to you guys on this channel. But it's so important for us to not neglect those things. She suffered very serious trauma in college when she was assaulted, and to go for 3 weeks to pass and for her to meet Derrick and then build the relationship with him. One, that's in and of itself was interesting to me, knowing the context of her being assaulted, but then quickly getting into like having this situationship or relationship with him and finding esteem, but then only to just go through this constant chase of trying to get his attention and things like that. So he built her up in a sense by, he first approached her, he's like, are you a model and stuff like that. But then you just see this constant low self-esteem and her having to do things,
lose him.
Right, having to do things for attention. And it's really sad when you see it from that perspective. It just reminds me of the importance of healing. And as she became whole, as you start to see healing, she started with therapy and things like that throughout the relationship and marriage and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then you start to see her come to Christ and really see that wholeness forming. Now it's starting to be in a sense fed up. She had dealt with all of these different things from him all the way up to this point, leading up to marriage. They finally get married, and then still some of those things they're dealing with, still the same story pretty much, maybe a little more secretive, but still happening. And she's just kind of dealing with, not even talking to him about it as much. But the more she got healed, the less she was willing to deal with that. And I thought that was powerful to me. Yeah.
I think, it was one moment when she said she did ask him, like, do you even believe the stuff that you're saying on social media? As far as he would talk about other men. Y'all know, y'all watched them, and how they were unfaithful and couldn't be trusted. And these men are trash and things. And she was asking him, do you even believe that? Because throughout the whole entire relationship, he was doing those exact things. Yeah, he was so she did talk to him, and she would listen to his response, obviously, but she just knew that she couldn't trust him. Yeah, he was essentially describing himself when he was talking about men and stuff like that. Yeah, so I thought one of the good takeaways of this to remember is this is another human. This is somebody that is dealing with something that we didn't even know the scope of. We assumed once stuff started coming out when it came to Derrick, we started to realize, like, oh man, this dude is a flat out hypocrite. He is a complete fraud, and he has so many people fooled. Even to this day, if you look at his YouTube page, ironically enough, he still has over 700,000 subscribers on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Using this type of talk, what it really boiled down to was do as I say, not as I do. So he would say things and it would sound good. It would have all the girls like, oh my God, I love it. He understands. He understands what us women are dealing with. But then you go and look at it, he's that exact guy that he's trashing. He's that exact person, if not worse. I would say argue worse because he had a wife and children. He's probably worse than a lot of the guys that he was describing based on the fact that he has the means and he's in the position where he can. So, but what did you think about it? Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to go back and think about when I first started hearing about him. And my first thought was the things that he's saying are very simple, right? But I have to keep in mind that, I'm not every person. I haven't been through every experience that every woman has been through. And not every woman has been taught these things from, family and friends, things like that. Right. And so, honestly, though, I will say it wasn't deep, but he looked good. That's what it was. And so, a person on social media who looked good and they talking some stuff like, queens and things. We all, yes, bring it. Like, that's what I'm talking about, King, So that's my first thing. I do want to say, like, all of this makes sense, coming full circle. Didn't see all of this coming, but it's just like, this is simple, but he's taking little things that you would hope people know, not everybody know, and just making it like, here's my truth. Here's what you need to know as a woman. Okay, so but that also goes into the conversation of what I thought from watching this video with 𝙇𝙄𝙆, and it was how important accountability is. How important, I want to say, Christian accountability, not yes people, not people who just, they don't want to be confronted about the things that they're doing wrong, so they're not going to confront you. We got those type of friends where I know I'm doing dirt and you doing dirt. We're not going to adjust. We're not going to talk about it. We're not going to address it. We're just going to do our dirt and be like, girl, you a mess. So that's not what we need. But here, I just felt so much, just concern and just sorrow for all that she had to go through. And like you talked about, the 3-week turnaround that she had from going through the situation of the rape to getting in this, situation, relationship, leading up to marriage, whatever, with Derrick. And it's just like,
Where were her people
For real.
saying, I don't think it's time. I think it's too early. You know, she didn't even feel comfortable telling anybody that she was assaulted. And she kind of mentioned it to him. She said, like, she kind of mentioned it to him one time. But it's just like, I just really have wished hearing this, that there were some women around her who, you don't have to listen to them because you know we're going to do what we want to do at the end of the day. But I'm saying some women around her pouring into her, telling her what she needs to hear, you know, speaking that, because she said she grew up in the church and basically she knew church culture, but it wasn't personal for her and now it is. But I'm just saying, what were the people around her? And so that's why, like, for me, always I try to, you know, be that light, you know, be that walking Bible for my sisters in Christ, things like that, and tell them what they need to hear. And it may not always be the right thing. Encourage them, you know, if they decide to share. And I know you go through things like that. You don't always feel like sharing with somebody. But I just, like, man, I just feel like some of this could be prevented. All that she knew he was doing throughout the entire relationship before the marriage and stuff, and still did it as a part of the scars that she had from previous to him. And it's just like, going to him about it obviously didn't help because he used that, right? Whether he say he did or didn't, he used that and it helped him go further in doing his dirt, and she went along with it. So that was horrible, you know. But yeah, that's my thought about it.
No, everything you say I agree with. For every broken woman out there, there's a guy out there, and if not several guys, that will take advantage of that. And I don't know how intentional it was for Derrick. I don't know. He might have sincerely had interest in her. It probably was a complicated matter. It's easy to kind of paint and be like, oh, he was taking advantage of her from day one. It seemed to me like she wanted him so bad over that time because of the brokenness that she had due to the trauma she experienced, and that she kept trying to push for him. And because he stayed around, and he probably saw after a while, like, man, like, she really wants to be with me, and she's been consistent. All these other girls have come and gone, but she's been the most consistent. So she's the one I'm going to go with. And of course, got her pregnant. So that was pretty much the final straw.
Whether he
where
knew
it was like,
all that she knew, regardless or not, he 100% without speculation was taking advantage of her.
Oh, he took advantage of her,
So
no doubt.
That was 100%.
No doubt. He took advantage of her for years. That's not a question.
Whether she, you know, kept it a secret and acted like it was really things with her family being wrong.
She
with
dealt
her
with
things.
it. Yes, she
But
just
no,
endured.
He was not treating her right at all, and she just witnessed it, and she went along with it because, you know, again, the self-worth.
Yes, she didn't know her worth. She honestly couldn't have known her worth. I mean, people talk about it. It sounds cliche, but when you really reflect on what you're willing to do for something, or what you're willing to allow someone else to do to you,
our actions show the opposite. We can say, no, I know I'm a queen. I know, but you know, some of our actions, it be honestly showing the opposite. Everyday situations, people who don't even go through, you know, rape and situations like that. It's like, wait, you said that you believe you're worth this, but then you did this, and that's not in alignment.
Because of the experiences that she went through, and her not finding that space to heal in that, it was hard for her to feel like what she's worth, because a man did a terrible thing to her, and it was someone that she knew, and it wasn't like a stranger or something. It was someone she knew. She probably thought she could trust in some ways. So from that respect, that view of men in that situation, you know, really paved the way for someone like Derrick to come in and to be that role, because I'm sure that he treated her nicely, and he was, you know, polite to her. It doesn't seem like on that level, like, there was manipulation, there was mistreatment, but there does seem to be like a conflict where it's like, but and I'm not saying she said this, but it does kind of give you the feel of like, oh, but he's not the worst person, or he seems, he's very polite. He obviously looks good. He's funny. There's things he does. Exactly. So there seems to be a very complicated nature, as is all relationships and failed marriages and things like that. But, you know, I would just say, you know, continue to pray. We're going to continue to pray for both of them. Again, it's easy to clown the situations. There was people even in the comments of the Dear Future Wifey interview that she did, where they were like, man, I laughed so much at the different posts that were, you know, circulating on social media.
Halloween costumes.
But the funny part was they said they laughed at it so much. Then now hearing the testimony of her, they're like, man, I'm you. And I didn't even know it. I didn't even realize I was in the same situation as you while laughing at you. So it's easy for us sometimes to laugh at situations. But there's a lot of people that are going through something very similar. Maybe they don't have a multi-million-dollar guy who's writing books and living a complete opposite life. Maybe you're not with a guy like that. Maybe you're with a much lower, a much lower class type of individual as far as finances and things like that. But that's why we're going to pray, because we see what God is doing in her life, and it is good. I do think that she's a cautionary tale, but I do believe her testimony is going to be very powerful and continue to. And I'm glad she got the platform of her choosing that she felt was right to share it, because, I mean, it was almost 3 hours worth of conversation.
Could have been longer, I'm sure.
And yeah, it was so much in it.
Yeah.
So,
My final thoughts is just, I think it was a reminder to me, and it needs to be a reminder to all of us, or maybe the first time we're hearing it. If you call yourself a man or a woman of God, right? We're all able-bodied ministers, and I think that's so important. So it's not about being in the pulpit. It's not about speaking over, on a podcast and things like that. But the people around you that you have some type of influence, are you encouraging them? Are you speaking Jesus to them? Things like that. Like, how are you helping people every day that you run into, coworkers, whatever? Because we don't know what they're going through, right? And we don't know if they can actually see themselves how God sees them. So it's important for us to remind each other.
Yeah. No, that's good. I like what you said. Those are our thoughts on this. We hope you all enjoyed this. We hope you all enjoyed the entire interview. We encourage you all to watch it, because we feel like it'll be very something to reflect on. And you may have somebody in your life that you may be able to be that person that can be that accountability partner, like Cami said, or to help them to heal. But let us know what you all think in the comment section. But before you head out, do us a quick favor. Like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos that we put out, where we're talking about whether it's interviews, reactions to what's going on in the world, relationships, marriage, all the above at this point. But let us know your thoughts.